Thinking, these two circles are not equal. I repeat, these two circles are not equal. One is in fact larger than the other. What I need you to do is determine which one that is. So, please raise your hand if you believe the blue circle is larger than the red. All right. Please raise your hand if you believe the red circle is larger than the blue. All right, very good. Now, before I said anything about these two circles, what was your first instinct? Equal, right? Because they look equal. And the reason why they look equal is because, in fact, they are equal. These two circles are identical. Yet I got just about every one of you to raise your hand and say that they're not. So what did we learn? That you can be manipulated like that to believe in something that goes against your natural instincts. Just imagine as a child you're taught that the blue circle is larger than the red. If you say it enough times, you convince yourself that's the truth. If you're told the lie enough times, it becomes part of your reality. And if enough people are taught that lie, that the blue circle is larger than the red, well, now it becomes part of the culture. And if that culture then passes that misinformation along to the next generation, well, now it becomes tradition.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on when you are watching this stream. So welcome to the second episode of the Agenormedia podcast. I'm going to do a little recap on what I covered last week. I spoke about the statement that Dr. Umar made about how, black men were supposedly responsible because black women had a poor selection. And then it dawned on me that that's an issue that doesn't just affect black women per se, but it's an issue that affects women in general, particularly in the West, in that our modern women make poor decisions overall. So, as the title of the video says, this is going to be in two parts because I want to make slightly shorter videos. I don't like to ramble on and on and on. I like to be precise, concise, and straight to the point. Like the title of the video says, with standards comes expectations. And we need to define these things. We need to define these things because I'm pretty sure we can all see that the conversation so far about relationship has reached a stalemate. Men have made their claims, women have made their claims. Both parties have had have made their response, and we seem to be stuck in a deadlock of, I've heard what you want me to do, but I'm not going to do it, and this is where we're going to be. And we've seen, by all accounts, whether it be financially, whether it be by the cost of living that's going up, that this model is not sustainable. The model where we're going to go about not giving each other what we want and not giving each other what we need is not the way to go for the future. So that's why we need to start by identifying, well, what are the standards for today? Like, what are the standards in 2023? We need to define these because if we don't, then any conversation going forward about relationship is meaningless. It's pointless. We're always going to come back to the very beginning of, well, of not having our expectations being met. Okay. So yeah, let's talk about it. Let's talk about the standards and what are the current standards in 2020. Well, if we're going to talk about relationship, we need to define what are the standards or standard relationships. What type of relationship even exists in the first place? But wait, before that, let me back up real quick. I would like to do one thing first. I would like to make one thing clear first. I do not pretend to be the guy that is going to reinvent the wheel. Okay? There have been other men, there have been better men who have covered some of these topics, who have covered some of these subjects way before I did, and probably for a longer period of time that maybe I ever will. As a matter of fact, I would argue that the purpose of this channel is to say that the wheel works. We already have a design that has, survived the test of time, that has a proof of concept. We do not need to reinvent it. We do not need to try and reinvent the wheel and then come up with triangle wheels, square wheels, rectangle wheels, and a bunch of other design that just don't have a track record of working. You see, when it comes to this social pace, or whatever we want to call the manosphere, which is basically content made to address men by men, what I've noticed of what of the first that I saw, I would say one of the first that I watched was probably when I came across was Obsidian, and there was Minister Jap, and of course the late Kevin Samuels that I saw. I would say I saw more of him than the others. But what dawned on me when I was watching all of these man space channels is that it basically confirmed some of the instincts that a lot of men had. But because there was never a space for men to communicate these things, a lot of men were just thinking that, hey, you know what? Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just the one who's going through these things and I'm just having a bad day. I'm just having bad luck. And this is why I believe a lot of women and a lot of people in this woke space have a problem with men-centered content. Because now men are waking up and men are adjusting and men are being put on game, so to speak, about all the shenanigans and about all the bull jive that the modern woman thinks she can get away with. And as time goes on, men are learning quicker, men are learning faster. But on the other hand, despite all the, I would say, all the women talk shows, The View, Oprah, Ellen, what have you, you're starting to realize that when it comes to relationship, women have learned nothing. You could even say that they've regressed a little bit because you can clearly see that there's less and less understanding about men in terms of relationship dynamics. So this is why I say we need to go back to understanding what the standards are. Once we understand the standards and what they're supposed to be, then we can have a conversation about the expectations we have for each other. Right? So, before we go, what are the relationship statuses that can exist? What type of relationship can exist between a man and a woman? I argue that there are only three. I argue that there are only three possible relationship statuses between a man and a woman. The first one being single. How does that happen? Well, you go out on a date or whatever activity you choose. You do meet. You ask the questions you're supposed to ask. And then you realize that it's not going to work, right? For whatever reason. I'm crazy. You batshit crazy. Clearly, we're not supposed to be together for more than 15 minutes. So, God bless you. God keep you away from me. So, you go over there and do you, and I'm going to go over here and do me, right? Which is what we're supposed to be doing most of the time because of all the people we have on the planet. No, you're not just supposed to go and mix and jive with everybody as if, you don't have to ask questions, right? The second type of relationship that I believe exists is anything that is short term, right? So situationships, booty calls, sneaky links, anything that doesn't have the idea that I'm going to plan and build something long term with that person. And there is a reason why I link these all together. It's very simple. Because they're all going towards the same destination. Now, you're probably asking, well, what is that destination, Agenormedia? I'll tell you. The destination is nowhere. Nowhere. This is where all these relationships go. Now, I'm not saying as grown folk that you're not allowed to have these short-term relationships. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying as long as you understand that that's where they're going, as long as you know what you're doing, you can't start having expectations for anything longer if this is the context of the relationship you have, be it with a man or a woman. That's what I'm saying. So that's the second type of a possible relationship status between a man and a woman, in my humble opinion. The third one is the long-term commitment. Commitment is what I deal with. The long-term commitment, be it marriage or being outside of marriage, because men simply do not trust the court system and do not trust this no-fault divorce system that is basically does not incentivize the woman to stay anymore. But yeah, that would be the third one. Long-term commitment. So we have single, we have short-term, anything that involves just having fun or you're not sure and you stay 6 months, 1 year with a person and you don't know what the relationship is. I don't know how the hell y'all be doing that, but anyway. And then you have long-term commitment. So now that we know that these, well, I claim that these are the only three standards relationship that exists out there, right? What has to be the standard of a man and the standard of a woman to qualify for any of those? And the reason why we have to keep talking about it, and of course we're going to come to, yes, what are the standards of women today? And the reason why we have to keep talking about it is because we've seen the experiment when men just chose to shut up. For the past 30 plus years, basically men have been told to go to work, punch in, punch out, and don't say another word about anything else. And we've seen the outcome. So this doesn't work. But I would understand why men get tired of talking, because we always get sledgehammered because we're saying our opinion. Despite the fact that there is literally the expectation for us to come and save the day whenever there's a problem. But I don't think not talking about it is the answer, because that is like removing the speed limit on the highway just because people keep speeding. No, you don't do that. You leave the sign and you just hand out a bunch of tickets. Because if you remove the speed limit sign, you're going to have a hard time, like we have a hard time today, to sort of try to bring back, if at all possible, some of the standards in terms of conduct and behavior. So this leads us to the crux of the conversation today. I'm going to start with the man first, right? Obviously, the goal here, we're talking about long-term commitment relationships. This is what I'm going to focus on, because the rest, we all know, like I said, it doesn't go anywhere. So if this is what you care, this is what you're about, this is the only purpose that you have, this is your objective, I don't think you need to stay for the rest of the show, because that's not what I'm dealing with. I'm dealing with long-term commitment. I'm dealing with the idea that you might potentially go and stand in front of someone and swear before God and man that you will be there for that person through adversity, sickness, and poverty. That's what I deal. I deal with the commitment that you might make to that person that you want to be with for the next 40 plus years. All this going around having fun, getting your back blown out on Tuesdays, that's not what I'm dealing with. Okay? So, the long-term commitment, which is, I believe, what most people want, right? Because we can't act brand new in 2023 just because it's a modern era and pretend that we can sort of reinvent the nature or the relationship dynamics between men and women while trying to ignore what our instincts tell us that we want. You see, at the end of the day, the only check you can carry to the bank is what you choose to do. Okay? I believe that at the end of the day, men want relationships. I believe we all want relationships. Why do I believe that? Well, it's very simple. You see, if sex is the only thing that mattered to men and money to women, then every prostitute would be married, and every billionaire, millionaire, or any person that's rich enough will not find himself, having his partner or spouse file for divorce. So by that metric alone, this tells us that a relationship is more than just these things. Because damn, at least it's literally in her job description. I mean, you're not going to be in a sexist marriage with her, right? Her business is based on the concept of giving you what you want as a man. At least you're going to get some if you marry her. But that's not the case. Men typically, successful men, men of quality, men of means, typically do not keep loose women. And women of quality, women who have a backbone, because I keep hearing, the modern women calling housewife weaks and, they have no ambition, which could be a bigger lie. But women who have a backbone, women who know what they want, quality women usually will not choose incompetent men. Down the line, when push comes to shove, when people finally go all in, the loose women is not who the guy that can have whatever he wants. That's not who he's going to choose. It might be who he plays with, but that's not who he builds with, or that's not who he builds for. Okay, we men and women, we each have our preferences. There's a reason why 30 plus, 40 plus year old women are not selling like hotcakes. Okay, let's just be real. There's a reason why broke men are not the most respected amongst women. There's a reason for that. This is what I mean by why are we trying to reinvent the wheel as if we don't already know what works, as if we don't already know what we want. Okay? It doesn't matter how modern the world gets. We still have traditional expectations when it comes to men. In other words, we still have standards when it comes to men for certain things. So clearly, it is natural for these men at some point in time that they're going to have some traditional expectations for the women. So this is why understanding what the standard of being a man is important, because then you can see or appreciate what the standard of a woman is or should be. So, what is the standard of a man? Across all time period, or whatever one you want to refer to, there are three basic tenets that men you had to be somewhat competent in, right? You could summarize it about into three, which is leadership, protection, and provision. You have to be somewhat efficient in those three aspects of life. Money matters. You can be mad if you want to. Money matters. $30,000 15 years ago is not the same $30,000 today. Okay, and you still got 7 days in a week, 24 hours in a day. So you have to do more or you have to be more. Okay. So by that metric alone, you understand that as time goes on as a man, you can't afford to be less. You can't afford to do less. It doesn't matter if you ask men or if you ask women what they want from a man or what they expect from a man. And these three characteristics or these three tenets englobes overall what the standard of a man should be. And that is the same standard that basically survived the test of time, because that hasn't changed. We did not remove broke shaming. Okay. We never removed it. As a matter of fact, though, that's probably one of the first thing a woman is going to tell you as to why you don't qualify. You don't make enough money to tell her to shut up. You don't make enough money to tell her what to do. Right? It's a bad position to be in, and you never want to be in that position. So, naturally, we need to ask about the other group. And this is where I believe the problem is. And this is where I believe women are once again going to get tired because we keep talking about them. Well, there's a reason why we have to keep talking to you and we have to keep talking about you, because you're the one who got shot with the bullet of the feminism. Listen, if you get injured on the right leg, you're not going to apply first aid on the left one. You apply first aid on the injured member of your body. So, what are the standards of womanhood? Guys, I believe that this is the question that needs to be answered for any conversation about relationship to finally break the stalemate and go forward. Because when it comes to men, we don't have a problem with that. We don't have a problem telling men what they should do. We don't have a problem telling men what they should be. And if they fail to qualify, if they do not measure up, we have zero problem letting them know. And men understand that. A man knows why he doesn't get the girl. A man knows why he's not getting the chick. If you don't have a job, you're not working, you lazy, you out of shape, and there's a girl you kind of like and you kind of feeling her, and there's another guy who kind of feels her too, and he has his shit together, and she ends up choosing him instead of you. You know why you didn't get her. You know why she wasn't feeling you. Man, no, you know why you probably didn't get her. Like, there are no guarantees in life, just probabilities. And the only thing you can do is try to put yourself in the best position possible to have the best choices possible that are going to give you the outcome that you're looking for. So if as a man you did not put yourself in a position to probably have what you want, you know why you're not getting what you know. And vice versa for the women. The difference is we don't have a problem telling men when they're unqualified. But whenever we critique women, man, you can't tell them nothing. Because if you were to listen to the argument women are making, whatever they do is never wrong. And this is where we have a problem. So, what are the standards of womanhood? Right? When you have the infamous question that you ask a woman, what do you bring to the table? And women have such a hard time answering this question because they feel like it's an insult. They feel like it's an insult despite the concept that you're literally talking about committing the next 40 plus year with that person. Right? I mean, think about it. Life expectancy is in the 70s. Okay? And, women keep saying that they got time because they keep pushing back relationships. So let's say you meet and you marry, or you're in a committed relationship at 29, 30 years old. Well, 40 years later, that's 70 years old. Okay? This is what you have to think about. If you're looking for a life partner, then you have to count the next 40 plus years immediately. This is what you're getting into. So I think if a man is asking you what you bring to the table, I don't think it's an insult. I think it's a valid question. I think it's an intelligent question. And I don't understand why it's such a hard answer to give a man, right? I mean, it's saying that you bring nurturance, gentleness, warmth, cooperativeness, modesty, devotion, supportiveness, affection, submissiveness. Is that really hard to say? Is that really hard to say that this is what you bring to a relationship? Is that really hard to say that you bring kindness to a relationship? Is that really hard to say that you bring tenderness to a relationship? Or is it hard to say because you don't know that's what you should be bringing? Is it hard to say because you don't understand what men want, or you don't understand men at all? Could it be that that's the problem? Could it be the fact that you just understand nothing about men be the real issue as to why you have zero standard as to how you conduct yourself? I think this is where the problem lies. I think this is where the issue lies, gentlemen. I mean, let's face it. What are the things in 2023 that a man can tell a woman that these are the minimum requirements that she must have that is universally agreed upon? What is it? Like I said earlier, as a man, you need to be somewhat competent in being a leader, a provider, and a protector. You cannot be incompetent at all three. You can't. Because even amongst the men, nobody's going to look at you and respect you and be in a position that, oh yeah, he deserves a good woman. No. You don't deserve shit. You can't be about nothing, not be nothing, not trying to do nothing, and expect something. But on the women's side, what are the standards? What is the standard of behavior of a good quality woman in a relationship dynamic? What is it? Because even amongst women, when you see these women are trying to work with a man, what do they get called? They get called pick-me's. That's not the man doing that. That's women. That's women going after other women, calling them pick-me's because they're trying to work with a man. This is why I believe this question is very valid. What is the standard of womanhood? If we can agree on what are the basics that a woman should be and should do, there is no possibility to place any expectations because you don't have a measure of reference as to what you can say. Well, I expect her to do at least 80% of whatever the standard might be. Unless we fix this, unless there's a consensus on this conversation is not going anywhere. It's impossible. It is impossible to break the deadlock until we solve this question. And I believe the problem to answering this question lies in the fact that women do not understand men in terms of relationship dynamics. That is the claim that I'm making based on the observation that I've made so far. And if you think my claim is crazy, then let me ask you this very simple question. Outside of the fact that men want sex from women, what do women understand about men? What do women understand about men in terms of relationship dynamics? What do they understand about what men want and what men need and what men do not want and what they do not need? What do you understand about a man? What standard of relationship have you been involved in for the past 10 to 15 years? Do you have 10 to 15 years of experience of being in a situationship, of being short term or long term? When you go for a job, what is the first thing they do? They look at your past, because that's going to be an indication of your future performance. If you have a history of staying there for 6 months, 1 year, or 2 year, well, you think they're going to have a 15-year position for you? No, they're going to have a 6 months, 1 year, 2 year position available for you if they have one. They're not giving you 25 years plus stock option and a whole retirement benefit plan. You're not getting that. Outside of the fact that men want sex from women, what do women understand about men in terms of relationship dynamics? If they understand men so well, how come is it that they can't find them, they can't pick them, and they can't keep them? How come is it that they're out there looking for a potential bus owner, talking about that their standard says that they can't deal with a bus driver? If they understand men so well, where is this bus owner that's looking for them? Like I always say, guys, don't just take my word for it. I challenge each and every one of you to ask the question yourselves. And you guys let me know what answers you get. I'm curious to see. I'm curious to see what answers some of you might get by asking this very question. Because we can't solve this standard issue if we don't solve how women perceive men, or how willing women are to work with men on an average basis. So, on that note, I bid you all a good day, good afternoon, and a good evening, and I'll catch you next time.